All right, we're live for our Break the Cage Saturday. Good morning, coming to you from the Crown Plaza Hotel in Denver, Colorado. Actually, the Denver hotels for the airport. Get this, it's funny. The Denver airport is so far out of town that you have to drive for, I think, 3 hours and 2 camel trips to get there. So we drove for 15 minutes to get from the airport to the airport hotels, which are usually like, almost on site. So the Crown Plaza Denver Airport, DIA, right, is 15 minutes from the airport and still way, way, way on the north edge of Denver. So they have at least 3 decades worth of expansion they can do to Denver before they even think about getting close to the airport, which I think was the intention, but holy cow, it's out in the sticks. I thought Edmonton was bad. So we're here at an event. Now, we've had some interesting things happen. Today, our talk is going to be about goals. Goals, what they are, that's that word, objectives, goals, things we're trying to accomplish, things we need to do. And we're going to do it from a couple of perspectives. And we'll get there in a minute, so let me tell the stories first. The stories. So I'm at an event here, Ken MacArthur's Impact event in fabulous company. Yesterday, speaking right now, in fact, I'm missing the first half hour of his talk, is a good friend of mine, Stephen Memel, who is from Hollywood. He is a vocal and performance coach. A vocal and performance coach with illustrious client lists like Adam Levine, lead singer for Maroon 5, and Drew Barrymore, the actress, and Lauren Bacall, and a number of other heavyweights over his career. So he is quite famous with a long list of A-lists. He's a good friend of mine. And here, Stephen's also been a guest on my Results on a Rampage radio show. If you haven't had the chance to listen to that on LA Talk Radio, you should hear his interview. He and I were talking yesterday about some stuff, and he was saying some of the same things, and I said, I remember you saying that on our interview. He also here is David Hancock, who's the CEO of Morgan James Publishing. And he was telling me yesterday, and he's also been a guest on Results on a Rampage, and he's a good friend as well. And he was telling me yesterday that their greatest book launch that they've had was recently Jeff Walker's launch book. He's, like I said, CEO of Morgan James. And it's a spectacular. He was really excited because he had a copy of it. Hey, meet yourself, buddy. How you doing, Manny? Good to see you. So I was just telling him in Denver here with at the Crown Plaza and at an Impact event, and one of the people here is Morgan James CEO David Hancock, and he bugged me about a book that I promised to get him several months ago, and I told him I'd been sidetracked, and he said, it happens. So he was talking to me about some of the things that he thought about in establishing Morgan James, and it reminded me very much of the interview that I had with him in LA on LA Talk Radio many, many, many months ago, a year or so ago. And here's the reason this is important. Okay, guys, here's the reason this is important. When people ask me what I do, and it's the short version, you all know I have Speed to Profit Marketing, and I have Break the Cage, and that's what we're doing here. Here's what I sell them. And this was so true in David Hancock's case. I said, well, I help people do 3 things: discover, develop, and deliver their personal story. Discover, because it is that your personal story and journey is the essence of who you are today. Develop, meaning taking your personal journey and story and turning it into a unique selling or unique value proposition so you can provide value to others and thereby help them and make money, and deliver that using a variety of modern media. Of course, video is primary in importance, so that you can achieve #1 positioning online and attract clients to you like a magnet, so that you can make a lot of money, live the lifestyle you want, create the legacy you choose. So discovering, developing, delivering your personal story is so important. So when I listened to David talk yesterday, at dinner last night actually, he was talking about his journey a little bit with Morgan James, and I as soon as he had a pause after he talked for a couple minutes, I stopped him and I said, you see, David, this is a perfect example of someone who has a connection, you, with who they really are and how they're projecting that right through their business in complete integrity and transparency. And he laughed and he said, I love the way you pull that out of me. He said, that is so Beautiful. And so it just was another example of how critical connection with our essence is. And that's what goals are about. Goals must not come. So the first piece I said is why goals. Goals are not about listing all the deficiencies that we have, all the things we are not yet. Steve Chandler, who is a big coach, a big name in coaching, and he's also a friend of mine. I met him several times at events in Phoenix. He said something that was quoted on a wall of another friend of mine. He said, when goals come from a state of deficiency, if we live our lives from a state of deficiency, and all of our self-flagellation is camouflaged in the form of goals, meaning I got to do this and I got to do this and I got to do this so that I can be okay. When we come from a place of deficiency, it comes from a place of weakness. We are always in a state of I'm not good enough, I suck in some fundamental way. And so you come from a state of incompleteness and a state of deficiency. So there's a very important line between goals that we set because we think we suck and we will be okay when we do certain things, and objectives. I'm going to use a different word instead of goals. Objectives that simply state the degree to which we want to serve someone, or serve a community, or serve our families, or develop our talents. Objectives that we have that we want to express, creativity and a power, that story that defines who we are. To the extent we want to express and grow that, that's not an objective that comes from a place of deficiency. I suck because I'm not already X. That's a place of fear, a place of deficiency, and a negative launch pad for a goal. And so that was what Steve was talking about. We then operate always from a state of I'm not okay now and I will be someday when. That's not a good place to start from. It's a place of weakness, not a place of power. Connecting fully and completely and honestly with who you are now, owning all your past messes, whatever they are, and then choosing how you want to show up today, tomorrow, and so forth, is the essence of being able to express your unique gift and talent, what Gay Hendricks in The Big Leap calls your zone of genius. It is the key to doing that. So the first thing is, why goals? So I'm using goals there in the sense of the word objectives that I just used. Objectives are a desired outcome that we want to achieve, not because we suck where we are, but because we want to express greater creativity, bring greater service, express greater love for those that we care for or feel responsibility for. So an objective in that sense, serve God in a more complete, full way if we tend to be spiritually connected, which I do, and it's a very profound and important part of my life. So all of those things are what I think of as very appropriate expressions for objectives. But it's not done from a place of weakness or a place of insufficiency or a place of suckiness, but from a place of simply an expression of the unique gift and creative power that we've been blessed with and have developed, hence the discover, develop, and deliver our personal story. So I'm going to stop there for just a second because that's number one on our agenda today. We're going to run a little bit over because we started late because of my struggle connecting to the internet here. It was not obvious at all how to do so, even though I had the code from the front desk. So we finally got it, and I'm going to ask, first of all, is my video okay? I was worried about the speed of the internet connection. Manny, is my video okay?
Yes,
I'm not pixelated?
No, not at all. You're crisp.
Okay, cool. So give me some comments. There's Joy. Give me some comments about objectives and setting them from a place of expression of talent and gift as opposed to an expression of I suck and I'll be okay when. Manny, you got yourself unmuted. What you got?
Yeah, actually I was thinking about you yesterday in the shower, Kellen.
Okay, I won't go there, but whatever.
Yeah. Okay, there's a book that I've been listening to while I've been running called The Hidden Agenda. And, you know, I always try to track everything back to the neuroscience models that I have internalized. So there's a model they put in there called need, want, and values. And I visualize it as need and want are down on the what's called bottom up. The universe is in control. Whereas values are coming from your goals, your abstract goals. So your brain is shooting top down. That's goal-directed behavior. So what you're saying right now resonates with that, because with needs are about deficiency. You always feel like, I need this and then I'll be complete. Wants tend to be a little bit more proactive, but wants can lead to like desires that aren't necessarily aligned with what you're trying to accomplish at the values level. And all those are associated with three different firing networks in your brain: your inhibition, your activation, and your goal-directed attention. So that's what I hear when I hear you saying it.
That is great. Manny, what I want you to do is tilt your camera or your laptop down a little bit, because your mouth is right in the film strip, and we can't see you talking. We can hear your words, but we can't see you. Preston, I see you're here, but just in your avatar, and Richard as well. If you guys have something to say, please unmute and go for it.
Oh, no, I just, about goals, it's very important, obviously, to set those goals, and I like what you're saying about being in that place where it is not a necessity, but being able to say, you know, this is my goal, but this is based on my value, and my value really is where I am as a person, and not trying to change anything, but trying to go above what you normally would set for yourself. So you're kind of like moving that big rock up the hill, and I've seen so many people, you know, they move up that rock up the hill, and then they get to a plateau, and then they stop, and they don't keep on moving it. And I think a goal is always progressive. You got to keep on going with it, because once you reach that goal, then you have other goals, hopefully, in the back of that.
So that's really important. So you're making a critical distinction, and I want to emphasize it one more time before we get off of this topic, and that is goals that come from a place of I suck instead of a place of I simply want to express my value in this way come from the place, like many describe, a place of deficiency. And they almost feel like a drowning person. I gotta do this, I gotta do this. And it creates a dissonance in you, not a harmonious effort. Goals that come from a place of I want to develop and I want to express. See, we're either developing or decaying. Plants are either growing or they're dying. Everything is like that. So having an objective, I'm using those two words now, the goals is sort of the negative one and the objectives are the positive one, and that's not universal, that's just for the convenience of this discussion. Objectives about desiring to grow, desiring to serve more fully, to express more fully, to develop more fully, are healthy, positive, and motivating. Goals, using that as the negative term, that are driven from need, can also be motivating, but they're motivating in a more negative way in terms of, I gotta get this, and because they are negative, they bring with it that energetic inertia that we have talked about often, which is this heavy drag of, I don't want to. So they feel more like a fight. I've got to do this. I've got to make some money, otherwise we're going to starve. We're going to lose the place. I can't pay the rent. I gotta, frig, I wish this wasn't so hard. Kind of a feeling as opposed to an expression of service and development. So that's really important to keep in mind our own distinctions, because objectives that are positive come from a place of aspiration, not a place of desperation. All right. Great. So let's move on to number 2. Learn how to make your goals clear. Now, this is really, really important. Clarity is the father of success. If you are simply pushing forward in a fog, it is difficult. Two things. It is difficult to maintain motivation when you feel like you're moving through a fog. You don't know exactly what you're doing, what you want to do, and you can't see very well. Okay? It's just, I got to keep pushing through this fog. And even if you started out really well with a positive direction, if you don't really know where you're going, it's easy to lose motivation. I'll give you some examples of that. It's a lady who was swimming the English Channel, and she gave up. And she gave up literally a few hundred meters from the shore. And the reason is because there was a heavy fog, and the people with her were telling her, it's not that far, it's not that far, keep going, and she couldn't do it because she couldn't see the shore. and it was too mentally exhausting. A few weeks later, she did it again. It was a sunny day, and she made it, no problem. The issue was the fact that she couldn't see the shore. The other reason, so it's hard to maintain motivation when you're in a fog and you don't have clarity. The other thing that is extremely important is you can't make course corrections. If you do not have clarity of exactly where you're pinpointing on the other shore, you can't make slight course corrections in your direction to land you where you want. And so you end up like Covey talked about, you end up at the top of the ladder and only to realize you've climbed the wrong wall. And you haven't clearly and completely defined exactly where you're trying to get. I find that massively true in online marketing, where you now have the ability to target so narrowly. You can target people. We were talking about, one of the speakers yesterday talked about the Facebook graph search and the ability to target so narrowly in people's desires and needs and so forth, and the ability to do reverse marketing. You go through Craigslist, or you go through other things where people are advertising a certain service, like say you're targeting dentists. So you go through all of the places where people who are dentists are advertising their services, and then you use them as a list and reverse market to them, either whatever services you offer that are aimed at dentists, but you have an automatic list by trolling and pulling all the people that are advertising that they provide dental services, for example. But anyway, all of that is based on the specific knowledge that you have a very powerful solution for increasing dentists' clientele, or as an example. So clear objectives. We're going to talk about how to set them. What we've talked about just now is why clear objectives are important. Keep up motivation, make course corrections. There are probably other reasons too. I know in myself, the more I am absolutely able to articulate with perfect clarity exactly who I want, it lights a fire in me. When I'm able to say something powerful in a way that creates that emotional feeling of chills, yeah, that's what I want to do, then it creates motivation for the day, for the hour, for the speech I have to give, and so forth. It was funny, just before this conference, I was in Calgary for 2 days at an energy conference, and I was to speak there. And the story about that conference is quite funny, but many of you know that, or many knows it anyway, and so I won't tell the story again. If you want to see it, you need to go to Dave Gray's YouTube channel. You'll see a YouTube video and with some responses that are quite funny. But anyway, a number of people told me very strongly that I gave the best presentation and it was spectacular to have me back. And I was actually warmly greeted by several people who hadn't seen me. There were lots and lots of new people because I hadn't been up there for 6.5 years, 7 years. I've been out of that business, but it took me an hour to get back to where I needed to be to give the kind of talk. And I talked without slides. I don't do PowerPoint. And I talked in the noisy way that I talk. And I talked a bit irreverently and loud in terms of calls to action for the industry. And I was able to talk from a complete place of detachment, because I have no position there now, so I had no dog in any fight. I was able to talk about it from all perspectives. The point about that is the objective. My objective in going there was to sound a neutral but loud voice about unity and about the need to work together to make improvements, and not just everyone retreat to their corners and shout loudly for their own self-interest, which tends to be what happens in stakeholder gatherings that are trying to make decisions as important as those with a public good like electricity, which is $60 billion a year and a necessity in everyone's life. Anyway, so it was good, but it was good because my objectives were clear. Now let's talk about how for you to set clear objectives. If you are trying to serve anyone, so if you sell any product or service, whether it is physician services, services to physicians who are trying to unphysicianate, or yes, you can write that word down and use it in some strange, arcane way, or SEO services online, or marketing services, or coaching services like I do, knowing exactly the face, name, and demographic of who you talk to is so important. It's so important. Yesterday we did an exercise of speed networking exercise here at this event. So I got to meet 40 or 50 new people. And knowing that allowed me to be able to talk to those who would be good for me to talk to in a completely different way, and those that weren't because of their position right now, it didn't, and it didn't matter. But I would have missed all the opportunities if I hadn't known that. So some people use the acronym SMART, S-M-A-R-T, for objectives. It's good to use right now. The first S stands for specific. SMART objectives are specific. By specific, I mean you can see them, you can taste them, they involve your senses, they involve details. Like, I want a bigger house isn't a SMART goal. I want a house with a minimum 4,000 square feet, 4 bedrooms, a quarter acre, or maybe a half an acre. No, a half an acre. I want it to have some trees and landscaping already in. I used to have a pool, and I don't want that. I need to have a big loft area or a big open rumpus room because I have kids and I want them to have a place to play, or I want to have a big TV room. Something for me, I needed to have a 3-car garage because I was going to turn one of the bays into a recording studio. But I knew very specifically what I wanted to have, and I wrote it down, and it was very clear. And so when I was looking for a house, I looked at nothing else. When I found the list of things that qualified, then I focused specifically on it has to have this kind of financing available, and it has to have this. If I hadn't had those specifics, it would have been a much longer and much more difficult search. So when you're talking about objectives for money, for your business, I want to be making $12,000 a month in 6 months. I need to do that by. It will come from this much residual income because of products I'm selling online. It will come from coaching. I will have group coaching, this many people in it at this price point. I will be charging this much for private coaching. I will get these private coaching clients from these events that I go to. I will do this kind of outreach. That's a specific goal. So that's the S. M is measurable. If you don't have measurable goals, again, it's like moving your ship in a fog. You don't know where you're going, and you don't know when you got there. So $12,000 a month for income is pretty specific and pretty measurable. It's either 12000 or it isn't. More than that would obviously qualify. A is attainable. Attainable means it has to have some degree of realism. I'm going to make $1 billion in the next hour wouldn't be motivating because the likelihood of its success isn't high. And I know that, and I'm not saying utterly it's impossible, but we have to take steps, especially when we're trying to level up our lives in any significant way, because we have become habituated to the performance we have. We have to overcome those habits and move in the positive direction of the new objectives, the new expression of our talents that we want to have. So attainable. Realistic is like attainable, but I think it was so that there would be an R. And it's realistic and attainable. Realistic means especially the time frame. Okay. A also can stand for actionable, meaning it has to be something that you control. I'm going to, do something that depends on a whole bunch of other people. Okay, if my attainable depends on a whole bunch of other people's actions, then it's out of my control, and what that provides is a convenient excuse for me not to get it. Well, this and this and this didn't happen, so it's not my fault. T is time-bound. Time-bound. It has to be a do what by when, which we've talked about before. So how to set goals is just be rigorous and honest with yourself. Is this goal specific? Is it measurable? Is it attainable? Is it realistic? And is it time-bound? And honestly, starting where I am, because you can't start anywhere else, and we've had a whole discussion on that in another Hangout, can I do this? And am I willing to put in the effort that it will take to get there? When you set objectives like that are not from a place of deficiency, but a place of expression of your gifts and talents, then you have a good chance of achieving them and creating the motivation and the changes to overcome energetic inertia that we've talked about other times. So let's open it up. All of you can have comments if you'd like. Hearing none, we'll move on to number 3. Rich, you have something?
One of the things that keeps me stuck sometimes is the fear that if I choose a goal that I'm going to be so focused, like with blinders on, that an opportunity that's right here in my periphery is I'm going to ignore it and miss something stunning. And my question to you is, how do you learn to adjust for or keep in mind that there are other things going on that may be happening around you that you want to pay attention to, and recognize that could take you to a better place if you're paying attention.
So that's a good question, and I'll answer it specifically with an example that's happening to me right now. My business is coaching, and I do it for entrepreneurs, and I do it for radical change candidates. Break the Cage Now is for radical change candidates, a private program to help people make radical changes, and Speed to Profit Marketing is about helping people. In both of them, I use discover, develop, and deliver your personal story, like I talked about in the beginning. And if you missed that, when late, you might want to just play the first 5 minutes of this, or 10 minutes, 3 minutes, something. Talked about what discover, develop, and deliver your personal story is, and why that's so critical. So in that process, I talk to people all the time. I get talked to about other opportunities that are very peripheral, that are outside of my focused area, and most of the time I reject them. But the blinders do not prevent you from seeing them. They become a filter through which you evaluate those circumstances. So when someone talks to me, and they did, about an opportunity back in the power industry, which is something I had done for 30 years, it was a very interesting and powerful opportunity, an equity position in a company that might make an enormous amount of money. It could make a lot of money in a short period of time. My evaluation criteria, the awareness of it wasn't blocked, because they, talked to me, and I wanted to talk to them about coaching their company, and they wanted to talk to me about bringing me in as a partner to help them do deals. So it's about the evaluation process. So the blinders aren't blinders, they're filters. And you have to choose, and that's why I'm in the middle of that process right now, evaluating how much time, if any, anywhere between 0 and a third. I wouldn't give them full time. I'm not going to dump what I'm doing. I might give them a little time if I think there's a real possibility there. But the evaluation criteria, again, become, is this an expression of my gifts and talents? Will this lead to greater opportunities in my coaching business? If I create a bunch of deals for these guys, it's going to be with businesses installing a particular piece of electric storage gear that might lead me to massive opportunities to coach small businesses, because Alberta particularly is just stuffed with entrepreneurs, and the economy up here is exploding because of oil. And so then I have to evaluate, there could be lots of opportunity in the area that I'm working already and that I intend to be my focus area. Then the question is, do I have time? Do I have any time, or will devoting any time at all to this new venture subtract from the quality of service that I provide my current clients, or growing that business in the way that I intended based on my other specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound objectives that I had set for that business? And so I don't think of them as blinders. I think of them as filters through which I try to ruthlessly evaluate those opportunities. Okay, anybody else have questions or comments about that?
Kelly, I'll go short geek with this one, because I always go back to the model. In unconscious mind programming, and if people want to Google the research, they call it implementation intentions and distraction intentions. They're all like if-then scripts you kind of put in your head. If I see this, then I will do this. If I see this, then I'll do this. It helps people a lot with depression and addiction to avoid their temptations, as well as to not be too stuck in the tunnel sometimes.
Okay, I've actually heard that, particularly about addictions, about that if I see this, then I will automatically do this, and it becomes a decision made ahead of time instead of one made at the time when you could be more susceptible because of the stimulus to do something that's more along the lines of the schema that you had previously acted out all the time. So yeah, that's a very important thing. So if I see a distraction, if I see another opportunity, then I will put it in this box, and I have agreed to spend 2 hours on Saturdays evaluating other options or other opportunities. If somebody pesters me with this, I will not take time to do anything about it right now, but I will get back to them on sometime in the future, and I have a structure for doing that. That could be just one way to think about that sort of thing. Anyways, good dialogue, good description. All right, number 3, how to make your goals magnetic was the third piece that I wanted to talk about. Goals that are just, and again, I use the word goal, and I have used it interchangeably with our definition of objectives here. I'm now in the positive space, so we're going to talk about all of these as if they were established with a positive intention to increase your expression of talent, increase your participation in your zone of genius, and move you toward the kind of fulfilling expression of who and what you are. If I'm going to make my objectives magnetic, and by that, using that word, I mean that they draw me, they continually motivate me, they continually pull me forward like a magnetic attraction, I have to do something. Simply creating an objective, even writing it down, even making it specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Okay? Even doing all that, there is much we can do further to make them magnetic. And that is create an emotional attachment to them. We buy, you all know this, we buy based on emotion, and then we justify based on logic. So we buy something because we want it, and then we tell ourselves all the reasons it was a good idea afterwards, and we justify it all based on logic after we have made this emotional buying decision. Treat your goals the same way. Create an emotional attachment to that outcome. Now, assuming you're making these objectives with the high intention, with the intention of greater expression, greater service, and greater fulfillment of your gifts and talents, and developing them in service, and making money, boatloads, scads, piles, swimming loads, boat pools full of money, fine. But it's done in the way of service and expressing your gifts and talents that you were given and have developed. Creating an emotional attachment, an emotional fulfillment with that is something that easily makes your goals magnetic. So let me give you some examples. When I talk to entrepreneurs and business people, this is in that particular kind of coaching that I do, most of them want more leads, most of them want more sales, they're looking for greater business advancement in that way. So I could start the discussion with, all right, you want to make more money, so you need to go do this strategy on social media. You need to get more clear about, and I could start telling them a bunch of things, a list of 5 or 6 things that they could do right away that have become obvious in our consulting. Or I could say to them, Mr. Entrepreneur, or I'll address each of you, Preston, Richard, Manny, imagine a situation where you have your business so powerfully positioned online that people are calling you, that your phone rings every day, 2, 3, 5, 10 times, with people looking for exactly what you provide. In fact, they're looking for the most powerful version of what you provide, your highest end products. And they find you and do that because you've positioned yourself so powerfully online that you have become the obvious answer instead of just another option. So I want you to think about that situation. What would you feel if that were happening, that were your daily experience? And so the purpose of that question was to put you in a state of thinking, holy crap, that would be great. I would be excited. I would be able to make money. I'd be able to serve people. I'd be able to do what I do really well. That would be great. And so you have an emotional reaction. Anyone would. I would. That says you've got a picture in your mind of a state where the phone rings, or you get private messages on Facebook and you're saying, yeah, I'd love to have a consult with you. Yeah, I know, that's exactly what we provide. I'd love to talk about how we can create this magic in your business. You bet, I've got time tomorrow at 3 o'clock for a consult. If you imagine that situation, it creates a completely different emotional experience. And so then the question becomes, I would love that. What do I have to do to make that happen? And then sometimes go ahead.
Oh, no, that's a good point, because one of the things that a lot of athletes do is they vision that, especially doing those actions, and there's emotion behind it, and it just, I guess it solidifies it into your mind. I mean, it's like, I've been through, it was a very short course of NLP, and they kind of talk about that too, is about being and imagining where you're going to be. even before you're actually there. And to tie that emotion inside of that is very powerful. You know, I mean, just what you said right now, I was thinking, okay, I know what my highest product is, I know what my highest service is. I do get some messages, but I don't get on the higher end, I get on the lower end, so I need to really think more. All the people that are going to be calling me soon are going to be wanting the high end. So that's great. I appreciate that.
You bet, and you can see right away, just by Preston's excitement, he's smiling, he's feeling that, holy crap, what would that be like if my phone were ringing and they were asking for my high-end product? Oh man, that would be cool. So then there's two questions that come out of that. One is, what do I have to do? That is the first iteration of the question. There is another iteration of that question that I want to teach, and that is, who do I have to be in order for that to happen? And I reframe the question that way because what do I have to do often makes us create a list of things that we got to do. Who do I have to be to attract that kind of client or that kind of energy in my life? Helps us think about ourselves holistically. Well, I have to be a diligent person. I have to be interesting to talk to, so that when that person calls, they get the sense of, holy cow, this person can do exactly what I need right this minute. I love it. How did I ever not find this before? I have to be that. I have to be on when I talk to them. I have to be fully confident in my product or service. I have to not stumble and say, well, I think we can do that. Of course we can do that. We can make that happen for you, and et cetera, et cetera. So a higher version of what do I have to do is who do I have to be to make that happen? And so it makes you ask that right away, but it makes you ask it in a positive sense, very reflective of the emotion we just saw Preston express when he was thinking about that in just our little exercise here. So asking yourself that question in either of those two ways, and I would suggest who do I have to be is more powerful. That certainly is for me, and I've used that with a number of clients. So creating the vision with an emotional payoff. I will have a case study of a client making XYZ money, or I will have a case study of a client having #1 positioning if I do SEO, or I will have a case study of someone, you know, having escaped their medical doldrums or their medical bleeding out in the ER room, but still giving the gift and talent of their medical knowledge, but doing it in a way that they can serve more people and do it in a more peaceful, congruent way with what healing should be, that feels more like healing instead of triage. Anyway, so that is the way that I help people frame magnetic goals. We're way over time. I'm going to open it again here in just a second for any final comments. If there is an interest for you to talk personally with me more, whether you're watching live or whether you watch the replay, www.breakthecagenow.com is a place where you can get a free gift, and we can also engage, and I'll give you a free consultation about your specific issues and problems. Love to do that if that's something that fits into your scheme, and see if this magic will work for you. Let's open it again for final comments from our guests today. Anybody else got stuff to say now?
Thanks, Kelly.
You're welcome. Were you having fun?
Yeah, I'm riding. It gets more fun by the day, like you told me it would.
Yeah, that's good. Richard?
Thanks. Oh.
You are on fire today, Kellen, and clearly energized by the event that you're attending, and it's absolutely coming across. It's very exciting.
Well, it helps to be in the presence of great people and to be providing value. I was on a panel yesterday doing some hot seat work with folks that were here. Preston, you had a comment.
Oh, no, I was just saying it's really good, and I hope, you know, because I shared it with my stream, hopefully other people are going to come and watch the recording and make some comments and hopefully get some conversations going, because, you know, goal setting, you hear different things about how to do certain goal setting, and I've been through many different programs, and I'm trying to apply a lot of those things, but I mean, that acronym of SMART really stood out for me, and I won't forget it now. I got more work to do now, though.
Yeah, we all want to be smart. Nobody wants to set stupid goals. I don't know what that acronym stands for, but whatever. I'm sure we can think of something. All right, thanks, guys. I'm going to stop the broadcast, and then I'm going to be jumping off pretty quick. So let me stop that. Thanks again.